Hi everyone, welcome to researchmd.com. We got a great presentation. Today we're going to teach you all about confidence interval. Okay, again, my name is Pramil, Cheriyath. I'm a director of research and I also teach medical students and residents, a program director in internal medicine in the transitional residency. So let's get into our subject. So when you talk about confidence interval, it's a range of estimate for an unknown parameter defined as an interval with a lower bound and an upper bound. Okay. Now, when you talk about confidence interval, it measures the degree of uncertainty or certainty in a sampling method. Confidence in statistics, when you say confidence, is another way of, like, you can describe the probability. Okay. For example, let's say if you have constructed a confidence interval like 95% confidence interval, you're confident that 95 out of 100 times your estimate will fall between the upper and lower values specified by the confidence interval. So please remember the statement, that's very important. And if you have a point estimate, so if it's 95 confidence interval means 95 out of 100 times the estimate will fall between the upper and lower part of the confidence interval. Very important to understand that statement. So what are the many methods, and you can use it in the proportions, population means, the difference between population means or proportions, and estimates of variation among groups. Okay, now let's go, we're going to take you to a stepwise approach to how to calculate the confidence interval. First, what you have to do is, like, you have to set, or you have to decide what kind of confidence interval you want, a 95% confidence interval or 90% confidence interval. Most of the time we like the 95% confidence interval. Okay, so you take 1 minus alpha, which is like a 0.05, so 1 minus 0.05, that is 95% confidence interval. That's the first step. Now next thing is you have to calculate the standard error, which is the standard deviation divided by the square root of the sample size. Okay. Third one you have to do is, like, you take the population mean, and then you have to take the z-score, which is given below. For 95% confidence interval, z-score is like 1.96. For like 99% confidence interval, z-score is 2.58. It's like a fixed value, and you multiply the z-score with the standard error. Okay, so let's some significance, some relations we need to know. As the sample size increases, the confidence interval narrows. When you have a narrow confidence interval, anytime you have a study, always look at the confidence interval. So if it is too wide, the variability is high, so association is not very strong. So anytime you see a confidence interval very narrow, the association is very, very strong. Remember that. So now let's bring in null hypothesis. Okay, so you can reject null hypothesis if the 95% confidence interval for mean difference excludes 0. Remember that. Okay, you can also reject null hypothesis when you 95% confidence interval, it's like an odds ratio or relative risk, because it's a ratio if it excludes 1. Okay, and the confidence interval, if they do not overlap, if they don't overlap, you can reject the null hypothesis. Okay. Now, which condition you can accept the null hypothesis? When you have 95% confidence interval, mean difference includes 0. 95 constant interval, you get the odds ratio or relative risk include 1. Remember, ratio and the confidence interval of two groups do overlap. Okay. In those three situations, you accept the null hypothesis. Remember that. Very, very important point. So we're going to go through a small example so we can calculate the confidence interval. So there's a survey done, sleep pattern of 100 people. You identify the mean as 35 hours per week of sleep with a standard deviation of 5. So how do you calculate the 95% confidence interval, which is 1 minus alpha, 1 minus 0.05, that's a 95% confidence interval. Okay. So first you calculate the standard error, which is standard deviation by square root of the sample size. We get 0.5, and then we got the population mean plus or minus. You got the z-score, which is 95% confidence, is a fixed score already. You take that 1.96 and then you multiply by the standard error. You get 95 confidence interval 34.02 to 35.98. Okay. Thank you so much for watching our channel. We'll be back with another presentation soon. Thank you.